So it is Monday, which means we have some box office to discuss. And boy, do we have some box office to discuss this week because Joker 2 Folie à Deux got the floor just completely removed from underneath it. It dropped 81%, which is the biggest drop, the biggest second weekend drop for a comic book movie. Also, I think that it's pretty clear what this says. It says that audiences don't want to see straight white men as the leads of film, right? I mean, that's kind of the logic that Hollywood uses. No, but in all seriousness, this is a really bad second weekend drop. Like, we knew it was going to be bad, but not this bad. I think Gilly, which was the Ben Affleck, Jennifer Lopez movie, is the only other movie that had a bigger second weekend drop, and that's not exactly good company to be around. And I mean, it took years for J-Lo and Ben Affleck to get their careers kind of back in shape. So definitely some ramifications that are going to happen for the people involved in Joker 2. I think it didn't help that this film was essentially a big FU to the entire core audience that catapulted Joker to $1 billion. And yeah, that never goes well when you alienate your core fan base and then you don't even do enough to gain new different types of fans. So this film, creative mess. It's a shame. It's a shame because I love Lady Gaga. She deserves so much better. But you know what? That's Hollywood, babe. But we did have some really good news, and that's the fact that Terrifier 3, an unrated film, a super gory film, a film that, came out of nowhere, essentially, from a distributor that is not one of the big studios, very much an independent film, opened at number one with $18.3 million and is already the highest grossing film of the franchise. Honestly, this could not have happened to a nicer, well, maybe not nicer, but to a better movie. I really do think that, it's been growing. The fan base has been growing from Terrifier to Terrifier 2, which made it kind of a splash when it came out. Now Terrifier 3 just completely launched this into the mainstream with most of the audiences really liking this film. It got a B CinemaScoop, which is really good for a horror film, particularly one that's this bloody. Now, I am wondering if a lot of the people who went to go see it were super diehard horror fans, because if so, this is a big audience for that type of movie. I'm sure it had to have had some people who have never seen it before, but who are just wanting to join the party like I was. And apparently we got some converts, which is really good for this movie, really good for the stars. I can't remember the name of the actor who plays Art the Clown, but definitely his star is on the rise. Lauren Rivera, who is our final girl, I'm hoping that this means she gets a lot more work super quickly because she is amazing, and she really deserves it. But yes, all around, this is such a great win for independent cinema, and I'm hoping that this leads to, more studios, either independent studios or even the big studios, to make smaller films because they have the potential for great box office returns. This film, like I mentioned, I think it was filmed for $3 million or something like that, made 18.3 in its opening weekend, whereas Joker, I think it opened with a little under $40 million, now $7 million in its second weekend for a $200 million plus budget. That is, the math isn't math in there. So I would imagine how many Terrifiers you could have made with the budget of one Joker. I mean, I think it's pretty clear who the people's clown is, and that is Art the Clown. Move over, Joker. But yes, could not have happened to a better film. Super excited and hoping that this has a good long legs. Not the film, but just long legs in the box office, because it is outstanding how well this film is doing. Other news, The Wild Robot continues its really good holds. It dropped only 28% this week at the box office. Again, this movie, it's already been greenlit for a sequel. I cannot wait. I bought all the books, so I'm planning on plowing through that series. But it's also going to digital this week. So if you didn't catch it in theaters, highly recommend to buy it when it hits digital, and then eventually it'll hit Peacock. But yes, this film, it is barreling for that best animated feature at the Oscars, and it just might have a chance. I mean, it's really competitive this year, but The Wild Robot is carving a nice narrative for itself, and it could not have happened to a better movie. I love this movie so much. Probably one of my favorite of the years. If you haven't seen it, go see it, buy it on streaming immediately. You will not be disappointed. We also had some other nice holds, including Beetlejuice, which dropped only 30% in its sixth weekend, and it matched what Joker made in its second weekend. I mean, that's incredible for Beetlejuice, but it does prove that Michael Keaton still has it and he can still beat the Joker. That is a little Batman references for those who love Batman and Batman Returns, who I don't know if there's a lot who don't like those movies. But yes, Michael Keaton can still beat the Joker, which is a really good takeaway from this weekend's box office. We also had Saturday Night Open Wide, a film that I really liked, and I did pretty good, I think. It got $3.4 million in its opening weekend, which, you know, it's an awards contender, definitely. It's also a film that follows the making of a TV show, so, you know, it is kind of an interesting ask to go people to the movies to see this film about a TV show when they could just watch the TV show at home. So they're probably waiting for streaming. I'm guessing that when this film does inevitably hit streaming, it will do crazy numbers because it is really good and people are just kind of waiting to discover it in the comfort of their own homes, which, you know what, don't blame them. But I'm hoping that they do eventually discover this film. We also had two movies open, Piece by Piece, which is the Pharrell Williams Lego biopic, and The Apprentice. And I think that those films are so interesting because I don't quite know who their core audiences are. For Piece by Piece, I saw it. I really thought it was a very interesting experiment, but I did mention that it felt like there was like an in-between space that it was trying to fill because I think it is too kiddie for adults who want to learn more about Pharrell Williams, and it does gloss over a lot of the details of his story, but it's also too adult and kind of educational for kids who are just looking for a fun Lego movie. So it's a good experiment that I think we can learn a lot from. I think maybe next time that you're making a Lego biopic, maybe make it more of a narrative. I think that's a big takeaway that could help its box office because it opened at number 5, which is not bad. But again, this weekend, the box office was fairly low. I mean, our number one movie, $18.3 million. Usually you want number one film to have a little bit more of a higher box office number. Nothing to complain about. This is a great number of Terrifier 3, but just overall, the box office this week was a little bit lower than you would want. And then with The Apprentice, it's a film about Trump, but it's also a film criticizing Trump. And so I feel like the people who would be willing to go see a movie about Trump don't really want him to be criticized. And the people who do want to criticize Trump don't really want to see a movie focus on him. So again, it's one of those things where it's very interesting in theory. I love the concept, but it's just, you know, there's no real audience for it, which I think really ended up hurting these films, despite them being fairly good movies. I mean, I haven't seen The Apprentice, but I've only heard good things about it. When making films, you have to really think a little, at least in part, of who the audience might be if there is an audience willing to pay to see these movies, which is something that I think more studios should take note of. All right, so that was this week's box office. A lot to discuss. Did you see any of the new releases? Did you see Terrifier 3? Did you not go see Joker like the rest of the world? Would love to hear your thoughts of it. And what movies are you most excited about coming up? I know this week we have Smile 2 and We Live in Time, which I am living for those movies. Yes, see you back next week for more box office.